Hi everyone, and here's what I'm up to today. You can call it prepping, you can call it not prepping, but this is my little wagon where I mix up my potting mix. I use a bale of peat from Lowe's for $10, and then I'll get a bag of, let's see, right there, oops, there it is, perlite. I was getting it from the the peat store. I was getting it from the pool store, and I had to get some gypsum for my ginseng. So I got that at the feed store, and they had perlite, and it was like $3 cheaper a bag. So I got a couple bags there instead of the pool store now. And so I was pruning back some of my lilacs today, and what I did is I decided to, instead of just throwing them over the hill like I usually do, I made some cuttings here, and then after I cut the leaves, take all the leaves off except 2 half leaves, cut them straight across. I nick that up with a knife, and then I dip it in the rooting hormone, and then I make a hole somewhere. This thing's kind of full. I wasn't even planning on doing this today, and I just decided to do it. So then you put that in the hole and then pack the peat around it, and I've got a couple more to do, and then that'll be all I put in this pot. And you want it to get light but no direct sunlight because it'll all wilt, and I don't know how well this will work. I should have been trying this a long time ago with my lilacs, but seriously, lilacs just send up shoots. If you want plants, that's a good way to get them, but I decided I wanted to try to get a lot of plants and pot them up separately. So I'm going to do this with the green brand new growth and try that, and then I'm going to do another pot of the same size with the 1-year-old wood that the new green growth was growing off of this year. So then I'll try those and we'll see which way works better. But of course I won't know that until fall or maybe even next year. But I'll just put them over there with my other cuttings. And then also I'm potting up some of my plants. And I've got this whole flat to go yet. I've been, what I do is I will take a 6-pack and I'll put them in pots. And then I will take them and plant them in the garden at the same time. So, 2 yellow bells for me and 4 in pots. And let's check, I'll show you the other things that I did. The clippings that I took, and we'll see how they're doing, and we'll just go for a little walk around the yard. I should move all my stuff over here into the shade, but this tree actually has to go because you can see that it's just going all caterwampus sideways. If that thing falls, it's going to destroy everything. But an estimate to get that done, yeah, it's about $1,200, which I feel is ridiculous, but I guess it covers their equipment and insurance. And my husband one time wanted a tree removed, and he called somebody and they wanted $1,000, and that was just to top the tree and drop it safely somewhere where he would cut it up, and then he could take down the rest of the tree safely. And he thought $1,000 was too much, so he wanted to do it himself, and he needed to rent a lift, which was $250 a day. And then he was paying people to help him, and by the time he figured he would take a day, maybe 2 off work, and then pay people to help him their lost wages, because we don't know anybody who was out of work that he would trust to just come and do this for him, he was up to $700 anyway. And I said, you know what, in that case it was just better to call somebody to do that. But in this case now we have 3 or 4 trees that need done, and honestly I think he just wants to rent one of those lifts to play with. So these are my purple leaf peach, for want of a better word. I don't know their official name. Here's the sugar maples that I got in just this year. They started getting their leaves, and then they had frost damage, and so far just looks like only one's not going to recover. But I think what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll prune this here, and then I'll prune it there, just to try to stimulate some growth. So those are the sugar maples. Let's see what else we've got going on here. My red mulberries, these were doing well. Everything got hit by the frost that we had, and it's slowly recovering, and I don't know, some things may not recover. But yeah, I was looking for those clippings. Let me see where they're at. So when I got my seedlings in, I had ordered 50 Paw Paws, and so my Paw Paws were labeled, and then I found this other bundle of trees, and I'm like, what the heck are they? So I just potted those up and seriously just put little question marks on them because I don't know what they are. And there's one of them that is getting some leaves on it, so that is definitely a Paw Paw. Just so you know, that's how a Paw Paw stem, brand new baby leaf looks. And right there as well. So that's those. And then, like I said, and those were some Paw Paws that I put back here because they had huge roots on them. They had to go in a huge pot, and I'm anxious to see how they do. Usually I find the smaller bare root ones are the ones that actually form out better for you. Here's what I was looking for. These are my Forsythia that I stuck in here, and these are all from last year. I just trimmed them and put them in there. This one's growing, you can see. So it looks like these other ones were too woody to grow. The Forsythia. So those will get pitched. Let's check this one. He's not growing. He doesn't seem to want to grow either. And this one I put in here because it had. That root piece was already there. But you can see it's all wet and slimy, so he's not going to live. And this one only has 2 tags in it because another one passed on and I had to remove him. So I don't throw those away because I'll get more, but I'll just put that right there. And then I'll use this pot for another Forsythia. Here's some more Paw Paw. Like, some of these are pretty sad looking. I'm probably going to do the same thing and prune these ones back to see how they'll take off. And then here are some more sugar maples right here. Yeah, that one, see how different that one looks from that one? But they're sugar maples. And these are elderberries. Everybody always says, oh, elderberry's so easy to grow. Just cut that stem, you know, cut that clipping and just stick it in the ground. Well, I'm here to tell you it doesn't work because these are all elderberries. And right here, that says cave elder. That just lets me know that I got it at the cave. Here's one. Look, that one's so thick and it's actually starting to grow. Yet these other ones that I would assume should grow are just dying. These are just branches from the nasty little cherry tree. Here's a wisteria that's growing. So my husband and I, wisteria is beautiful. And it's got some frost damage on the tips. And I have another one in addition to these two that ended up like this. Look at all that. That's all frost damage. These were doing beautifully. As well as on the hostas, frost damage. I have to come through and prune all this out of here and get rid of the elderberries that aren't growing. Right there's my baby Osage Oranges, and they're not waking up yet. This one has a tiny little bud on it, and I won't give up on them until it's time to give up on them. You know, they'll stay here till next year if they have to, but what I will do is if they don't start getting a lot of growth on them within a week or two, I will come back and prune the tips maybe down 2 or 3 inches just to try to give them a head start. And then right here are the persimmon trees, and they're also not waking up, which my persimmon trees, when I got them, when I ordered them, they were supposed to be a lot smaller, and they sent me these huge trees with, it just wasn't pleased with the roots on the trees. And I don't know if they were trying to do me a favor by sending me something bigger than what I ordered, but I prefer a small tree. And normally that's because if I sow a 4-foot tree or have a 4-foot tall tree and then decide to plant it, it's going to need, to me, seems like it's going to need a lot more care than a small tree. Yes, you have to wait longer, but they have more vigor, I feel like, when they're younger. So let me show you my big baby. I need to learn the proper way to prune a Paw Paw tree. That's my Paw Paw tree. It had a ton of flowers, many more flowers, but more are coming on, like right there and right there. However, here is an example of one that got hit with that frost. Nasty old Jack Frost. Yeah. So then over here is the Paw Paw. This is May 16th, and the huge Paw Paw is just starting to leaf out. So let me give you a look at this tree where you would actually say, there's another Paw Paw right there. Those trees are dead, but they're not dead. These ones do have a lot of frost damage on those leaves. Those leaves aren't coming back, but the tree will survive. I may end up pruning it back, I'm not sure. But there, see, doesn't it look dead? It's not dead. It is actually like the walnut trees. They are the last to leaf out, and the Paw Paw obviously gets its flowers first. Still has more flowers. Now, this tree, unless I go through and self-pollinate or pollinate each other with the pollen from another flower, and believe me, I am not a pro. I've never done that. I did try, but I only had a finger to use. I didn't use a brush, so it's probably not going to work at all. And this tree, I don't believe any of these flowers will form fruit because this tree doesn't have any flowers and this tree has no flowers. And that's a Paw Paw also with, you can hardly tell, I know, frost damage. Now, I don't know if I told you how I do my Paw Paws, but when they're young, they need shade, and when they're older, they don't. So I always keep a chair when they're younger, and after I had the chair on top of this Paw Paw, you can see it was hitting the bottom, and it grew like that. But when I took it off, the beautiful leaves started getting some serious sun scald, so I put the tree back on, which caused that growth like that. I could cut it off. Here are some Ginkgo biloba trees, and one thing I've learned about my ginkgos is don't overwater them. They will succumb to some root rot. I thought I had more Forsythia cuttings, which is what I wanted to show, but I don't see them. And over here are the black walnut trees, again, with all this frost damage, my poor babies. You know that I started planting a lot of trees as a hobby, and I do sell a few here and there. I'm not in business or anything like that. It's just I see these trees and I don't want them to die. So I plant them, and then I put them in pots. And we have another place where we want to do ginseng and sugar maple and a lot of, so we can feed ourselves. We want a lot of our own items. And then, so it's a lot cheaper to buy 50 seedlings than it is to buy one large already mature tree. You may want an already mature tree, and if you've got the place and the money and the time to take care of it, that's great, but we don't. So these are some, what are these? I think these are Scottish pine or something, I can't remember. But look at the beautiful growth on that. All this new growth. This one has a lot of new growth as well, but it also has a lot of dead areas. And this one, I think that's an arborvitae. Yeah, the deer just ate it like crazy. And this one, well, we know that one's just dead. Okay. And again, here's more peach. Now these purple leaf peach, to me they grow more like a bush So that would be one good for, you know, how you tie the leaves out separately. Espadrille? Esparel? I forget what it's called. Sorry for being an idiot. And here's some other peach trees that grow well next to those. These things are super prolific. If you don't pick up the fruit, you will have 100 trees sprouting the next year. And of course, there's the, what is that? Centora? Bachelor button, perennial bachelor buttons, and some bee balm that just regrew from those pots sitting there. And those are my babies. They're not going anywhere. This right here, big guy, little guy, was doing well, succumbed to frost damage. Don't know if he's going to come back. He's rather sticky. That looks like some new growth. That's a Paw Paw again. And I have to have my husband plant that one, but obviously not here because there's really no room here. And this little Paw Paw here already needs moved, and I don't know where to put him, and I hate to uproot him right now. Not even going to talk about that. But here's the other purple leaf peach that, and yeah, it's a peach, not a plum. But this grew here, and it grew and grew and grew, and I just left it grow, and I should have taken it out, and I didn't. So every year I cut it back severely. I think it's time to have my husband just take it out totally, but it does provide one good thing for me, and that's shade, which I need shade here for these Paw Paws in the pots, because when they're this young, they need shade. And again, I believe the frost may have gotten them as well. And who knows what this is? This is horseradish. I planted it here. Have never done anything with it. Every once in a while somebody will come by and say, oh, what's that? Be like, horseradish. Oh, wow. Can I get some? I'm like, yep, go ahead. It's free. There's the shovel. Matter of fact, that's why the shovel's there, for people to just pick it up. And this is the area that needs totally weeded. Wow. This turned out to be a garden tour, but I guess we'll go ahead and finish. These are Aronia berries. And again, I think I told you why I have so many plants once before as well. You don't make a lot of money off of this at all, but I will buy 50 plants, and 50 plants will be a couple dollars more than 25 plants. So it's just added insurance. And at our other place, we will have my husband just put in, I think, 40 of our raspberries. And yeah, so here's our Aronia. And this is our So I just hit the button to start the video again, and I paused it. So I think I was doing all this talking and I wasn't recording anything. Oh my goodness. So here are elderberries that I usually just dig up. Like that one, I will dig it up and put it in a pot. Or I'm gonna get a large one and put it here. You know why? Because I planted an elderberry here and it's a honeysuckle bush. Well, that's an invasive, and you may like honeysuckle. And it's okay, but it's pretty invasive. I don't need that here. I want elderberries growing under these walnuts. And let me show you the walnuts. I told you they don't all just leaf out. See that? They're just now leafing out. Right here is Echinacea. These Echinaceas were planted last year. That one just put in this year, and it's already taking off like crazy. And all this is Echinacea here. My little owl who guards it. Another elderberry that needs moved. It can't be right there in the middle. This is a section that all just needs what is that called? It's not chickpea, it's chickweed. The chickweed all just needs removed, which it comes out easy. And then I'll go ahead and put cardboard down and then mulch on top of that. And I don't even want to call it mulch, it's wood chips. It's, you know, the stuff that they give you free when you sign up on, woodchip.com, freechips.com, something like that. But that's a whole nother story. If you want those, you need to be extremely specific about what you want, where you want them to put it, because they may come when you're not here, when you're not home. This right here, an elderberry that just isn't doing anything. That whole section looks dead. This right here, you can see a lot of frost damage. Everything has frost damage. Let's go over here. Oh, right here. I don't want to tramp on my babies. Last year, I love these plants right here, Nigella sativa. They get these beautiful, beautiful seed pods on them. They're just amazing. So last year I took the seed pods off of them, and I haven't done this area here, even though I was working here not too long ago, because I've got all these little ones coming up, and I just don't want to kill them, but I'm going to have to, otherwise the weeds will take over and they'll kill them. So some of them have to be sacrificed, you know, because the good of the many outweigh the good of the few. Unless you are Kirk and Spock, then it's the other way around. But there, I sprinkled these seeds right there of the Nigella sativas. I love blue flowers, so that's what those are coming up there. So I had already planted some Echinacea here, and then I realized that I had forgotten I put the seeds there. So I had to go through and unplant the Echinacea. And then even though I have 4 layers of cardboard and 4 inches of wood chips, you still get grass poking up. Don't let anybody tell you it's not going to happen. So I just pull down here. It's a lot easier to take care of, but you still got to take care of it. And then sometimes I'll pull that out of there and it'll just pull up the whole grassroots. I understand grassroots campaign after I started trying to get rid of grassroots. So this whole area here needs redone. I just did this area probably a week ago. Excuse me, weeds. And then right here, this was a blueberry plot. Blueberries just don't like being planted here. I've planted blueberries along this stretch quite a lot, even before all of these walnut trees were here. And blueberries just did not like it here. I don't know, maybe they just don't like me. This right here is my little designer aspect from my garden. This is actually, who can guess? So there were some locust trees here. That one and that one. And locust is so strong, people use it raw for fence posts. And I can vouch that they last at least 30 years. My dad cut some, used them for fence posts when we had our horses and he had to put the fence up. And they lasted at least 30 years. They lasted long. I think they're now decaying, but yeah, that's a long time. So these trees were cut down probably prior to, no, definitely, I'd say right around 1988 or before. So they were cut before I moved here, which was exactly 1988. And about 3 or 4 years ago, my husband decided that he was tired of hitting them when he cuts the grass. So he got out his tractor thing with a bucket hickey on it. Yeah, I sound real knowledgeable, huh? And he dug around them and then he pulled them up out of the ground. And they're still there. So yeah, those stay a long, long time. So free fence posts, start now. Get yourself some locusts and plant them. And I don't know how this kind of stuff happens. The wind blew my little toad frog over. Where's the other one? There's supposed to be 2. Oh well, so that's that. There's the other one. I just thought they were interesting. I mean, I really didn't care to keep them, but this was going to be a garden video, but it's already so long. But let's say in for a penny, in for a pound. I like stuff like these frogs. They used to have solar lights in them. Of course, they don't work anymore. Nothing solar lasts after a year for me. Decorative things are really nice, but I'm to the point where, you know what, if it's not functionable, it's kind of just in my way. Like Mr. Owl here, he scares away the birds, the mice, the dinosaur. He eats the stray dogs and cats that come into the yard. And the rat, well, he just scares ratty people away. Yeah, I know. Not functionable. Plus, he's styrofoam, so he needs to go. I think things like this, they're really cute. I used to paint them and take all that kind of time, but you know what? Not anymore. But light purple is really one of my favorite colors. So is royal purple. But this is the type of thing that I will use to protect a plant. I'll put that just so I know, hey, don't run the mower there, don't do something there, don't tramp there, because there's something there you need, just like we did with all the old arrows. Although, take my advice, don't paint them, because the paint just chips off and then the paint ends up in your garden and around your house, and it's just a pain in the you-know-where. So let's go check out the garden. Here is an example of the wood chips, and I've already been into them, but I didn't really want it here, but they had dumped one over by the barn. They dumped one on the other side of the pool over there, and that was before we had this slightly larger pool, and now there's really no way to get a big dump truck through the areas that we have, which, if that's important to you, that's another consideration. But if you do sign up at woodchips.com or whatever, you gotta put a sign out that says dump wood chips here, because you may come home and have them in your driveway. If you say you'll take logs to cut up for firewood, you better make sure to tell them if you don't want pine. You also, if they're going to cut up wood chips and bring them to you and you don't want walnut in them because you can't leave them sit for a couple of years before you use them, then you need to tell them nothing with walnut in it. So I guess they'll try their best. Also, and if you want a big load like this, you can also tell them, they also have a space on their form, are you willing to pay any amount for a load? So what that just simply means, they'll drop them for free, but seriously, if they've got somebody 7 miles in one direction and 7 miles in another direction, and you say, yeah, I'll give you $20, they'll probably give them to you first. After all, they do have gasoline, right? This right here is one of the biggest thorns in my side. I love the cardboard. I love keeping it out of landfills. It doesn't all get recycled, no matter what people think. I hate to clean it, although if you let it sit and let it get wet, it's easier to clean. I just have so much to do right now. I've got to get it cleaned and out of the way, just because it looks terrible sitting here. This goat fencing, I think is what they call it. Welded utility wire fence. I think it's either from Tractor Supply or Lowe's. It's Red Brand. So where's that from? Tractor Supply maybe. This is what I like to use when I plant a Paw Paw tree, or any tree, specifically the Paw Paw trees that are doing very well at the other place. We planted them in the shade of some trees that are going to be cut down, but if you take a 6-foot piece of this that's 4 or 5 feet tall, take 6 feet, roll it into a circle, you have a perfect 2-foot circle to use for to keep around the tree, and we just cut them and hook the end over so it's easy to take off the tree, not over the tree when we take it off. So this is our area of the pool, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen this before, but we haven't taken the cover off the pool. It's ripped. We need a new one already. It didn't even last a year. But this pool with this window in it, it is amazing when the water's clean and the kids are sticking their heads underwater there. I got some great pictures of the kids with that. These are my herbs that came back. So glad. I love the sand around the pool. A couple of different reasons. It's there. You can't cut, and you don't want to weed whack that close to the pool. And again, whenever you get the grass that spreads in there, you just pull it out. See, of course it's going to make a liar out of me. And normally you just get that whole long piece of root to come out. Maybe it has to be dry. So that's the herb that came back. I think that's thyme. That one didn't come back. It's already gone. This one's going to be replanted. And right there, when I was pruning back some raspberries, I stuck the pieces in the sand, and you can see right there, that one's growing. That one's growing. I don't know if the other ones will or won't. It doesn't much matter. that one's growing. So I'll check them in a while and keep them a little moist. Of course, with the sand, it doesn't normally dry out too much, I guess. But here are some avocados that I'm trying to grow into trees, and I did do really well with a couple of avocados. I've learned don't let them dry out, and keep them out of direct sunlight, and they'll be okay. Although I don't think I'm likely to get an avocado, actually. It's just still much of a challenge. This is a area right here. We put these, my husband put these posts up to market, where I had all of my raspberry pots wintered over because I just never got to move them, right? And then they actually are so prolific, the roots grew out of the bottom holes in the pots like that. And then look, this is why these are here, so that we can let these get a little bit bigger. And then my husband wants to dig them up. Although with the amount of plants we have, it's not really necessary. But if you get those raspberry plants, this happens with a lot of raspberries. They just spread everywhere. I don't think I showed you the white walnuts, which is a butternut. Look at that frost damage. I've got to come through and cut that off. It's, I don't know. They'll recover, I guess. I'm just not sure how well they'll recover. But yeah, that's I really don't want to lose these trees. There are a lot of them, so hopefully I won't. And there's some tomatoes that are mostly dying. This one's not going to recover. I just don't have the heart to cull it yet. This is frost damage. Not sure. This one's probably... Oh, look. See, there you go. New little leaves. Now that's the will to live. New little leaf, all frost damaged. And here's the stone path, like I was telling you, that it's easy to pull the mint out of when it grows. Like, see, it's growing here, so I'll just pull that up. It's really nice to plant it up or just to get rid of it. So if you're gonna grow it and you don't want it to spread, if you grow it in something like that, it's easy to move. And then right here, I guess I did have some, oh looky, see, it's rooted through the bottom of the pot. That's the Forsythia, cracked the bottom of the pot. And there's some more coming through. Well, at least these ones. Oh, there's that one stuck too. Oh, my Lanta. Okay, stay there. But Forsythia. And so I'm going to go in here. This is one of the rows that is not cleaned up. You can see all the weeds that I let grow up through the fall. And this is that morning glory. I'll tell you what, I saw a farmer's market selling morning glory. And I said, I can't believe you're selling that. That is extremely invasive. And he didn't realize that it was. And so he told me that after that, a woman asked, and he told her it was